First of all, can we get a confirmation of a quorum?
We have a quorum present.
Great, thank you. So before we do anything else, do we have any public comments? No? Does anybody want to comment? I was asked, no? Okay, great, we'll go forward. So now on to item 1, the consideration and possible action on approval of the April 8th, 2024 board meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 2, the general manager's report.
So the general manager's report just said, we're going to start out with Mr. Garza, and then followed by Mr. Angel, and then Mr. Santillán, and then Mr. Garcia. So we're going to have everybody, come in and provide all the general manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Jose Armando Garza, and I'll be presenting the production and distribution report for the month ended March 31st, 2024. This is going to be on your tab 2 of the board binder, and I'm starting on on column C. The year-to-date distribution is at 1,255.497 million gallons, for an average of 6.861 million gallons per day. Jumping over to column F, that's the distribution for BPUB. The year-to-date is 1,091.622 million gallons per day, for an average of 5.965 million gallons per day. The column G, we have the distribution for demand number 2. The year-to-date is 30.612 million gallons, for an average of 0.167 million gallons per day. Under column H, we have the distribution for Los Fresnos, and the year-to-date is 104.385 for 104,000.385 million gallons, for a daily average of 0.57 million gallons per day. Under column I, we have the credit for B&D. The year-to-date is 26.366 million gallons, for an average of 0.144 million gallons per day. Under column J, we have the allocation for Indian Lake, and the year-to-date is 2.512 million gallons, for an average of 0.014 million gallons per day. Below that, we have the true-up estimates, and as you can see, Brownview is under by 74.86 million, and Mud is under by 0.19 million, and Los Fresnos is over by 75.76 million gallons. In the next page, we have the production and distribution for March 2024, and I'm going to go start in third column from the left, which is the total water production, and that was at 222.667 million gallons, for an average of 7.183 million gallons per day. To the far right, we have the water distributed, and that was at 220.763 million gallons, for an average of 7.121 million gallons. Below that, we have the chemical consumption, and the chemical consumption was at $91,344.25, and below that is the electrical consumption, and that was at $122,793.72. In the next page, that records events that reduce the water production from the plant. And for March, we have none, no events that reduce production. In this graph, we are showing the water production and distribution comparing fiscal years 2023 to 2024. I don't know if you have any questions on this slide. Okay, if not, going to the next slide. This is the water plant production comparing the 3 water plants for Brownsville. And as you can see in the box, SRWA has contributed with 29.22% of Brownsville's water demand. Are there any questions? Okay, that concludes my report.
Good afternoon. My name is George Hill. I'm the finance manager, and I will be presenting the financial performance for the month ended March 31st, 2024. I'm going to concentrate on the far right column labeled fiscal year 2024 year to date. And so starting on line 3, total operating revenues, we are at $3,905,789. To that, we back out our total operating expenses on line 10 of $2,961,968, gives us operating income of $943,821. Moving on to the next page. To that, we're going to go ahead and subtract out line 18, our net non-operating expenses of $109,088, which gives us income before capital contributions of $834,733. We did not have any capital contributions year to date, so our change in net position remains at $834,733. We add that to the net position at the beginning of the year, which was $22,764,917, gives us a net position for the end of the period of $23,599,650. And then we did provide some supplemental information on the O&M expenses, and so if there's any questions, I can answer those at this time.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'll be presenting the quarterly investment report for the quarter ended March 31st, 2024. This report is prepared in accordance with Chapter 2256 of the Public Funds Investment Act. The portfolio complies with the Public Funds Investment Act and with SRWA's approved investment policy and strategy throughout the quarter. Starting with the first column, I'm going to go through the asset class. Then I'll be going to the third column, market value, the fifth column, which is the percentage, and the second to last column, the yield to maturity. So in the asset class, we have the bank deposits with a market value of $854,176 with 25 cents, and a percentage of portfolio is 6.66. The yield to maturity is 5.18. Next, we have the certificate of deposits with a market value of $2,865,000, a percentage of 22.32, and yield to maturity of 5.46. Following the investment pools with the market value of $305,969 with 72 cents, with a percentage of portfolio of 56.93 and a yield to maturity of 5.38. Money market with the market value of $1,120,277 with 68 cents, with a percentage of 8.73 and a yield to maturity of 5.21. Lastly, we have the U.S. Treasury notes and bills with a market value of 688,415 with a percentage of 5.37 and a yield to maturity of 5.20. The total portfolio market value would be 12,833,838 with 65 cents with a yield to maturity of 5.36. Next page, I'll be going into the detailed distribution by asset class. Here we have the bank deposits, which are the Wells Fargo insured at 5.20. That's the yield to maturity, and a market value of 849,292 with 69 cents. And Wells Fargo collateralized at 4,883 with 56 cents, with the yield to maturity of 1.65. Second would be column of lines 4 through 16 with the certificates of deposit with a market value of 2,865,000 and a yield to maturity ranging from 5.25 to 5.70. Next, we have the investment pools, lines 17 through 23, with a market value of 7,305,969 with 72 cents, with a yield to maturity ranging from 5.14 through 5.79. Next, we have the money market with a market value of 1,120,277 with 68 cents and a yield to maturity of 5.21. We have the U.S. Treasury notes and bills. This is a note, and we have a market value of 688,415 with the yield to maturity of 5.20. Again, the total yield to maturity for the quarter is 5.36. The additional pages include supplemental information. If anyone has questions, I can answer them at this time.
Any questions? I think we're good, thank you. I believe next is a drought update.
Good afternoon. My name is Guadalupe Garcia, and I'll be presenting the drought update. The current combined ownership at Amistad and Falcon Reservoir as of April 27, 2024 stands at 21%. Right now, we pretty much stand closer to that middle range of our drought stage 2. The middle range is at 20% before we drop into below 15 and then we go into stage 3. This graph here shows you kind of the trends that we've been having from year 2021 over to current, the present time as of April 27th. So you can see here we did start the year at 21.9%, and it trickled up and it's going back down. Right now we stand at 21%. The over to your far left, if you're looking at the screen, we have the previous last 3 readings, going from April 26th at 22.2, April 13th at 21.7, and then April 20th at 21.4. So we're starting to see that downtrend as we're leading into the summer. With that note, the National Weather Service did provide an update for May through July of 2024. Now, with that information, they did mention that the forecast does indicate above average temperatures with above average evaporation rates and little to no soil moisture retention. Another note with that is drought stage 2 water conservation continues, and it is predicted to worsen throughout the early summer. Sufficient inflows from Mexican tributaries remain unlikely from May through July. They're going through the same issue we're currently going. They haven't been receiving any rainfall. So they're in the same issue as we are with drought conditions. Water crisis in May or June is likely for agriculture and in some municipalities. We're already starting to see it. Cameron County issued a disaster declaration on April 15th of 2024. This disaster declaration kind of takes into consideration from the 2022 declaration that Governor Abbott provided or mentioned in regards for the state of Texas. So now they're referencing that information coming into this year. So it's been going on since 2022. We saw it, that's when we initially first went into drought stage 2 for the first time in PUB history. So, and going into that, one of the things that could help us is we are going into our 2024 hurricane season, and it's both a blessing and a curse for this getting hit by a hurricane, but that could be a potential answer for our drought conditions and for us to be able to get that water that we need over at the Amistad and Falcon reservoirs. And with that, I do conclude my drought update presentation. Do you have any questions?
I have a small request. Your drought stage meter, and this has bothered me for a while, and I realized, oh, I can say something about it. Really, our 51 to 100%, those aren't normal conditions. I mean, that would be a great life if that was normal. That's more where we feel safe. Maybe the normal title is a little misleading.
Yeah, we can definitely put that a comment in there. It is where the state of Texas Water Development Board does have that range within, in which we follow those specific percentages. Of course, it depends what we all feel comfortable with as far as calling normal, but that is what the Texas Water Development Board has.
They actually call that normal?
Huh?
They
Excuse
actually use normal?
They do not call it normal, but that's where we don't implement the drought stages.
Yeah.
And we can put that information, instead of calling it normal, we can call it no drought stage.
Yeah, small
implementation.
detail, but yeah, just as a math guy, I keep looking at it. Thank you.
Dearly noted, Dr. Hoffman. Any further questions?
Any questions? I think that's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, on to the next item. This is the consideration and possible action to approve the professional engineering services contract with Carollo Engineers for the Southmost Regional Water Authority brackish groundwater treatment facility feasibility study. And we have an award winning Ms. Leanne.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Marie Leal, and I'm the Director of Special Projects in Water Engineering and Planning. Due to the current drought conditions, the Southmost Regional Water Authority brackish groundwater treatment facility is seeking to improve production capacity and optimization of the plant. The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation is authorized under Title 16 to participate with local political subdivisions in studies to determine the feasibility of water desalination projects within 17 western states, including Texas. In order to solicit federal funding for the project implementation, in order to solicit federal funding for the possible Title 16 deadline application of September 30th, the project would be a comprehensive effort to ensure reliability of the SRWA, to meet the nameplate production capacity, and also to improve the cost of operating the plant. The feasibility study will address Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects that were originally included in the SRWA optimization study dated and approved back in January of 2024. SRWA staff selected Carollo Engineers for this project from the Water Wastewater Engineering rotation list, and they've also been the firm that has been working on the SRWA optimization project. And they have submitted a proposal in the amount of $311,865 to provide these services to the SRWA. SRWA staff recommends approval of a professional engineering services contract with Carollo Engineers for the Southmost Regional Water Authority brackish groundwater treatment facility feasibility study for a total amount not to exceed $311,865. We have with us today, Mr. Sergio Espinosa. He is with Carollo Engineers in case there's any specific questions for the consultant.
So one quick question about the funding opportunity that we are going after. What kind of numbers are we looking at?
So this funding opportunity happens to be for the feasibility study. We've done a feasibility, which is an optimization, but
Right.
very different from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation feasibility study. So we've done what is a stopgap analysis of what we needed to do, and that's what Corolla is being proposed to provide that information.
Right, but so if we're going to go, if we're going to do this feasibility study, it's in preparation of submitting a funding request.
Correct.
And what kind of funding request are we looking at submitting?
The purpose of the project is to, first of all, bring the SRWA to the nameplate capacity, which is approximately 10.3 million gallons per day capacity. In the preliminary cost estimates provided by Carollo in the optimization study, this would take approximately $26 to $35 million. We don't have a final cost amount for that. Once if we were to receive a grant opportunity, of course, by then we would have a more, a closer cost estimate, and we would have a more definite number to that. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the Title 16 grant opportunity is they grant 25% funding. So 25% of the 26 million, once we know a definite amount, it would be a savings or 8 million or $8 to $10 million for us.
Okay, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
And the deadline for the application is September 30th, but we have to backtrack for them to complete the studies on our wells, and which is the first step upon approval today from the board, and then gather the data, and then do a preliminary report, get back together with us, and then be able to make that deadline of September 30th.
So now that we have you here, what kind of studies will we be doing on the wells? Like, what will be different with this versus the optimization study y'all just helped us with?
Sure. Let me go up there. Answer that question. Good afternoon, board and staff. My name is Sergio Espinosa. I am the project manager with Carollo Engineers. And just to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Marie Leal was saying, is that the driver for this is the grant application. And you're not guaranteed the 25, but up to 25% is qualifiable. So you could be getting up to 25% of whatever construction amount we determine at the end of this feasibility study. The big dollar amount is on the wells. So based on the optimization study, the wells could be up to 23 million. So until we do this testing, we've hired a subconsultant, RWH. He will be doing some investigative work. And at the end of this feasibility study, we will determine how many wells need to be replaced. So it could be 5, 6, 7. We assumed a total of 8. That's why the number's high, the 26 million.
So what kind of extra testing will we be doing versus kind of the initial testing that we've done so far? Like what is this consultant going to be doing?
This consultant will be looking at the drawdown of the wells. They're looking at the pressure of the discharge lines. They're looking at the level transducers of the well to determine the yield of those wells. And that work will be happening in the next 2 months, because we need all that information to input that data into the feasibility study, which is due by August 31st in order for us to meet the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation schedule.
Right, so I guess drilling down on that, I remember a lot of those things were done during the feasibility study. So, just for color, like, what additional work will be done? Will it be mainly data analysis? Will it be actual sitting there taking extra measurements? How will these measurements differ from what's already been done?
In the optimization study, we conducted a tabletop evaluation using a model, a computer model. And based on that model, it was determined that many of, or several wells had issues. And so the next step now is to actually go out there and confirm whether the wells are yielding what they're supposed to be yielding on paper. And that's where this consultant comes in. So there is no actual testing done during the optimization study.
Oh, okay, I thought each well was tested individually during the optimization study.
No, sir.
I believe we had that information. I do remember something that there were some wells that needed maintenance. And if I'm not mistaken, in one of the previous meetings, they mentioned the number of the wells that had, that needed this, maintenance or.
Right, and we talked about the drawdown of each well and the specific wells that were problematic. So that's where,
So the optimization study, what that did was that it predicted what area of wells were having issues. So we had the operators go and verify valves. There were some valves that were replaced. And then the model after that showed the problem persisted. So the problem still persisted, and now the next step is to actually do some testing of each wells. But no testing of the wells were conducted during the optimization study.
My question, did we ever have that maintenance done to the wells that needed to be?
What rehab?
Yep.
Not
We're-
yet. The rehabilitation of
We're-
3 to 6 wells.
Right, we're actually in the process of, also working with, RW Hardin on that specific project. He is going to, help us, first of all, prioritize. There's a possibility of up to 6 wells that need to be, reconstructed and upgraded. And so, he's going to, redo the specs for them, and then also get with, staff and help us prioritize which 3 would be the ones that we go out to bids. So that should be happening in the next couple of months.
So we already know that we need so we need another, evaluation?
Yeah, what happened with the initial project, we thought we were gonna get a better yield out of the wells. With all we did 3 different types of cleaning, and they did not provide the yield that we were expecting. So now we're gonna do a different set of wells to see if that helps us out. So what they're doing with Corollo, they're gonna go out there and actually study the aquifer a little bit deeper, so we can know exactly where we have the issue. We may have to move a well. Right now, we're just cleaning in place, so we're hoping we can get it going. But in this particular case, they may tell us we're gonna need to move it 50 feet or 100 feet that way, somewhere else. We don't know yet.
And I guess to hopefully to answer your question is that, for the feasibility study, Corollo is going to be, along with the RW Hardin, be studying all 20, I think you're adding 1 well. You're doing 21 wells, and, drawing data from those 21 wells. As a separate project, we will be bidding out, hopefully 3 wells to be, repaired, and, reconstructed and, upgraded.
so I have a minor request, just so that we can keep track, of this ourselves. If you don't mind, could you just put together a quick bullet point list, you know, and not like anything in depth, of what you did for your well field study during the first study,
During the optimization.
During the optimization,
Correct.
thank you. And now during this feasibility, what exactly you'll be doing, just so we can compare and contrast on paper. It's not necessary for this approval, but just, you know, if people ask, we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
Let me add something also is that we had staff also review the feasibility assessment that meets the Title 16 requirements. That's very important here, and I know that, Judy, I hate to put you on the spot on this one, but you had done a gap analysis, and so my understanding is Corolla is gonna assist in making sure that all the information and that analysis that was not covered. I wish I would have brought that paper that you did of all the various, the table that you had done together, because that would also show all the additional work that helps to do that. The well fields and the data collection is just one small
Right.
aspect, but it's all that other writing component of all the stuff out. And maybe Judy, if you remember from the top of your head, since you were the author of that one.
The actual application.
You know, the actual application entitled, and now, please, Sergio, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the intent here, was to also complete all that gap analysis, and all the additional part of your scope of work is for that Title 16 requirement and an application of various different words like benefit cost analysis and other data statistics that we need regionally as well. So.
That is correct, Meredith. So the proposal that you have in front of you has an attachment. That attachment is a fee summary, and kind of to follow up on what you were saying, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation has a strict requirement on how to compose or prepare the feasibility study, and you'll see some bullet points there on the fee schedule. Those items were specifically copied from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation requirements. So each task that you see there is a requirement from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation that needs to be in the feasibility study. So that information was what Judy had provided, which basically coincides with the back checking that we did. All those items that you see there under item 3 come specifically straight from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation requirements.
No, I think that's great, and not questioning why you guys would be involved in this. You know, you've done a great job on the optimization study. I just wanted to make sure that if there was ever any question about what one study was versus the other, that we could intelligently talk about it. And you know, bringing you guys in because of your experience with this, it makes all the sense in the world. And yeah, hitting all those very precise requirements for federal funding is always necessary. Having people who understand that's important. So I think that answered all of my questions. Great.
It is an action item.
Okay, and what is the exact mention?
SRWA staff recommends approval of a professional engineering services contract with Corolla Engineers for the Southwest Regional Water Authority brackish groundwater treatment facility feasibility study for a total amount not to exceed $311,865.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a motion?
Consideration and I'm sorry, I'll make a motion to approve
And I will.
the professional engineer services contract with Corolla Engineers.
And I'll second that as the only other person. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then our final item, read it on the paper, here we go. Consideration of submission of a letter regarding the deficient water treaty deliveries to public officials. Yeah.
So, Mr. President and members of this board, one of the reasons we're here is that we all know that the SRWA is one of the viable solutions to provide, water to our community needs. In doing our due diligence and looking into every single area, this is one of the strategies is trying to see if we can assist our, other partners in this and trying to have next to 5 water treaty. We have included in here a resolution of the Council Public Utilities Board provided where DPD is asking and strongly urging strongly encourage other members of our community to do the same, and stronger we stand together, right, and providing all of the constituency that we provide. So if you agree with the way the letter was written, you know, that letter was drafted to help them resolve the water shortage that we feel that due to the large water deficiency that now Mexico is unlikely to meet the obligations of the stream. And I'm going to turn it a little bit over to Paul, because he's the one who's been working very closely with our lobbyists in DC and local governments. If there's anything that I missed here for that, and I know I want to thank you so much also for working with the various entities as well to provide this. So we feel this is something strongly will be a joint letterhead between the Nebraska Public Utilities Board and the member SRWA, all the signatories attached for the signature.
Right, I think that's exactly correct. Anthony Blinken has been involved and engaged with the IBWC U.S. Commissioner in advocating for the various U.S. side users of water. So this is just another piece, right? Another voice to that. It adds some nuanced information, a little bit different from some of the others, because this is a special authority that is uniquely positioned to take advantage of the groundwater that's available in this area. So hopefully it might be that one thing that pushes somebody to actually comply, right, with some of the obligations, since we're 3 years into the 5-year cycle of water delivery.
So with that, PUD's applicant makes a motion to approve the actual document as drafted, and then we'll execute it, sign it, and send a letter, and then copy those that are included in the back of the letter. We feel that our region is better served when we're together standing and providing another voice of the various things. The letter has very specifics of things that happen economically to our region, not just the agricultural impact of the last sugar mill closing, but also the other industries that we have here, and of course our residencies, the residents that are here. And if we continue the way we're going, we know that we're going to go from stage 2 to stage 3 and potentially stage 4 rationing soon. And we want to try and turn every single stone out there in various different ways to get our reservoirs with a little bit more water in their absence of the rain that is happening.
So I only have a couple questions. One is, there seems to be a congressperson on here that isn't actually in Congress right now, and
We'll take a look and verify everybody here if there is somebody there.
yeah, I mean, just, I would hate to get involved in any.
Monica de la Cruz represents and currently is a constitution in Hidalgo County.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, well then that is.
Am I correct? We will double check it.
That's
the one.
worth double checking, just cause, yeah. Then the other thing is, I believe I'm the only unelected member of this board. It might be nice to say what every single person is, like mayor of, city commissioner of, that kind of thing.
We have that at the very end, maybe the draft that we provided you may
Oh,
not
the one I
have.
have doesn't.
So at the very end, we did put
Yeah,
the vice
me.
chair of BPUB, president of SRWA, and then we have Roger Nelson, vice president of SRWA. Oh, that one missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another version that did have it. My apologies. We'll make sure that we get the right version and the titles on here.
Just a small detail.
No, you're right. We had another version and we discussed it earlier, and I thought I had packed up that version that included that.
Easy to do, right. Any other questions or thoughts or concerns? Okay, and so is there, what's the action for this?
I'll make a motion to approve the draft. The letter regarding the water representative for the public officials.
And I will second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Okay, so that's getting us close to the end. Last item is small, the discussion of date and time of the next board meeting.
So next board meeting, we will hear the SRWA meeting is on June 3rd, 2024.
Okay, so I think that'll be fine. I want to make a small request for the next meeting and just information in the packet. Yeah, it doesn't have to be discussed much, but at least that we include it. But basically, we are now doing bi-monthly analyses with the states, so sending our water off to be tested. If we could include that in our chemical concentrations, just kind of since we started this testing, so we can look at trends and make sure that we all understand, because chemicals are a significant cost of getting this water to people. So just one more piece of information that I think would be helpful for at least me to understand how things are going.
So you're talking about the doses of the chemicals and then the actual contaminants?
Yeah, and so, and even if we have like 5 different charts, and we don't have to cover them during the meeting, but, kind of like the charts I would send along, similar to that. And is this a way of me being slightly lazy? Yes, absolutely. But it would be beneficial so that I don't have to keep pinging you guys every month. So, is there anything else you want to ask or say? Well, I guess I'd be entertaining motions to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kinda wanna say no to stuff like that, but. Okay, we're all set. Thank you guys very much.